Welcome back to another episode of 2 Bits and Cents Investing. I am joined as always by the one and the only Robert. How's it going?
Doing good, my man. How about yourself?
Good, good. We're excited this week. We had a little technical issue which required us to record a day late, but I think we were going back and forth about what to put on the board for this week, and I think we're going to do a deep dive into Lucid. And is Lucid a company that's legit, and should you consider investing in them? What do you think, Robert? Does that sound like a good topic for the day?
Sounds good to me.
So why
I think that's been on everybody's radar for at least the past 72 hours, if not more. I know that I was one that was on the SEC page on Monday, just hitting refresh like you wouldn't believe after the weekend, and I'm still yet to see anything. So I think it's worth definitely a deep dive into the look of Lucid. So with that, Ricky, take it away.
Yeah, so we had a special episode that Robert spearheaded where we talked about the SPAC news. And you want to do a quick recap of that before we get started?
Yeah, link in the corner.
Yeah, we'll have a link to the whole video in the corner. But there's some grumblings that they're going to be going public via SPAC. And so there's a lot of news and people are trying to get ahead of that. But nothing is final right now. The company I think that's being targeted that's targeting them is Churchill Capital, ticker symbol CCIV, and you could buy their stock now and see if that happens. But again, it's not confirmed at this point. But the reason I wanted to make this video more just generally, so if you want to learn more about that side of it, Robert has a great episode. We'll put a link here. But the more general question is, I saw some videos on YouTube where people were calling Lucid a scam. And that really bugged me because I actually really like Lucid. I did buy some shares of Churchill.
You did a long video on them, didn't you?
I've done quite a few. I've done quite a few on kind of what makes them special. The fact that they're not just buying motors from different places and slapping them together, kind of like what Nikola was doing, where they're not making the inverters, they're not making the batteries. They're kind of a design house and they have other people build the parts. That's not really much of a story. Anyone can do that, I feel like. So I wanted to kind of showcase, and I'm going to continue to. I'll do another episode on my main channel, but for whatever reason, I think there's a certain level of distrust, and I think it's probably because of Nikola. I think the general idea is we have all these people trying to ride Tesla's coattails, but you have to remember that while that can happen, that doesn't have to. I mean, I think you have to take everyone case by case, and in the case of Lucid, we wanted to break it down and do a deep dive on the company and kind of give you our take. I believe they are the real deal, and I think the two new companies to watch for in the EV space are Lucid and Rivian. Robert, agree, disagree? What's your take?
I'm gonna have to solely agree with you on that one because I mean, to me, I would have it just the other way around. I'm sorry, I'm a Rivian fanboy. I do have my pre-order in, and I'm beyond excited that this year I'm going to finally get it. So for me, it's going to be Rivian and then Lucid. But I agree. Lucid is definitely the real deal. I think that the Lucid Air, it's not a Faraday Motors, and it's definitely not a Nikola. It's not any of those. It's a genuine deal. And I mean, speaking of which, I mean, Faraday is coming up as a SPAC as well. They've had rumors of grumblings of that coming soon, so that could be interesting. But the fact is that Lucid has got the real deal. They've got the money behind them. They've got the architecture. I mean, the big thing for them is they've got Saudi oil money coming in behind them, and that's really big for a couple of reasons because it gives them the financial stability to go and explore these different architectures. It gives them the ability to go and deep dive into, hey, how can we do this? Oh, money's a problem? You guess what? Not anymore. This is an issue. Money, not a problem anymore. I mean, they've also just finished building their new facility, and they've got two really solid platforms that I think are going to be good for coming down the line. So it's definitely a good thing. So
Yeah, let's take a step back. I think this might be at the heart of. I remember my comments that I saw on the videos that I made about Lucid one of the comments that kind of bugged me, or I wanted to kind of set the record straight, was about their funding. So, the Saudi fund that has been a major shareholder and investor in Lucid shouldn't be viewed as a bad thing. I think one thing we have to remember is there's parts of the world that got rich off of oil. And what's interesting is you would think, what are you going to do when the oil runs out? But a lot of these countries, like Dubai comes to mind, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, they understand what the future is going to be, and they're on the forefront of it. The investments that they're making are basically take whatever money we make today on oil and invest in the next thing. They're incredibly smart. There's geopolitical and other factors that make people, and that we don't want to get into that. That's not what the show is about. Our point is, this is a deep pocket. This is a
political zone.
Yes, this is a political. Yeah, we don't want to get into that. You can watch that on some other show. But this is a deeply well-funded company. That's why you don't hear about Lucid raising more funds. Rivian literally just this week raised another $2 billion in a capital gain raise, because they're getting near production and they need building a car is expensive. So really it comes down to you can do it one of two ways. Amazon 700 million here, Ford 700 million here. You can get a bunch of small and constantly be in kind of a fundraising mode. Or you could have somebody with deep pockets who are like, go build a car, go do this thing, blow this thing up huge so that we can, all cash out, eventually make a big profit.
I mean, you got to think that's how Tesla did it at the beginning. Was Tesla had the deep pockets from, I want to say it was PayPal, the sale of PayPal. And he took that and he took every little penny of it and he privately went in and he privately funded it. And he did the right thing. He went for the rich market first, the ones with the deep pockets that could support it. And, I don't think we have to say it, but, ticker symbol TSLA. And, right now they're trading in excess of 850, I think is about where they're at today. But they did it the right way. They did a small, they took the Lotus Elise, they made it electric, and that was the Generation 1 Roadster. And then they came out with, the rest of them. And as they say, the rest is history. We're very well defined the fact of, what they can do and what they have done. And I think that is the right way to do it. And Lucid is definitely following that same pathway. They're going through, they're taking, the money where it can and in a big chunk, and they're going to invest it wisely. And they're going to learn from, because Henry Ford, he kind of did the same thing. He had a boatload of money. He went in, he developed the common car that everyone could drive. Same with Volkswagen. Volkswagen was the people's car. They were funded by the Nazi Party, but they still had the money and they went after the people's car. And I think that's what Lucid's going to do about this, is they're going to go after that same style.
Yeah. And Elon is very rich now, but when he started, or when he joined Tesla, his pockets weren't as deep as what Lucid has right now. Even so, exactly. And the comparisons to Tesla, I think, are also part of maybe the problem from a competitive perspective. S versus Lucid Air, that's all fine, but you got to remember every company is a little bit different. I know Peter Rawlinson, I had a chance to interview. We'll put a link to that interview that I had with him. He's a really smart dude. He has that thing. He's, first of all, like a very technical person. And to me, that's critical. To me now, when I look at companies that I want to invest in, I want to see like really technical leadership. Look at Elon Musk. My wife showed me a tweet about how when Elon travels or on any documentation, when he puts like occupation, he puts engineer, not billionaire, not Tony Stark, not CEO. Yeah. He puts engineer.
He's real people's people. He definitely he's an engineer's people, and he's definitely got that. And I think that's one of the great things that everyone loves about him,
and why he's beloved.
He is.
Yeah,
he has that point. He's not a millionaire. He's not a billionaire. He's an engineer. He wants to solve a problem. That's what he's looking for. So.
Yeah, exactly. Peter strikes me as a very similar kind of a guy. So comparisons aside, they're building a very expensive car, which is the right move. They haven't got manufacturing down yet. The only way you can make a $18,000 car like a Honda Civic is by making 200,000, 500,000, 800,000 of them. Lucid is not there yet. Really quick, you mentioned their factory. the biggest reason, the biggest takeaway here, if I could like boil this down, if you're looking for reasons to think of them as like a really serious and an impressive operation, their factory should be like case in point number one. I'm going to call my contact server at Lucid and get clarification, but they've used this term greenfield, which I'd like better clarification on. First, greenfield factory in North America dedicated to electric vehicle manufacturing. But I think it comes down to like how they built it or the process. It's something, but it is a 590 acre plant in Casa Grande, Arizona, and it is done. I'm going to have a tour in February, and I'll have it on my channel. We'll put a link to it when we have it. But the early 21 projections are going to be around 30,000 units per year. But the facility, when it gets to full scale production, can support 400,000 cars per year. So in this factory, over the next couple of years, they're going to go from kind of humble beginnings, getting started, work out the kinks. Right, there's going to be some kind of manufacturing hells that they'll have to go through and figure all that kind of stuff out. But once they come out the other end, they'll be building 400,000 cars a year potentially at full scale production.
And I fully believe that they will, and I fully believe that they've got the bandwidth, and I think they've got the engineering grunt behind them to pull it off. So I think it'll be really great.
Yeah. The other thing, and this is more qualitative. If you think about who's buying $100,000 saloon car, sedan, these are like, middle upper class kinds of folks. And so if you were looking at a Tesla Model S previously, you might be lured by the fact that the Lucid Air is a more of a luxurious kind of a premium feel to me. The Teslas are very like really clean and minimalistic. They're not overly done. They're very clean. The Lucid Air in comparison is a little more Mercedes-ish, if you will. And that was my takeaway sitting in it.
It's more definitely the Maybach style, where it's got that uppity, I say uppity. It's more of the upper class, feel to it. And I think that's the way to do it. I think that people want Rolls-Royce has been saying it for years that they wanted to do an electric Ghost. They just didn't have the technology available. And now Lucid's going to come out and they're going to do it. And I think it'll be on par and on caliber. So,
yeah. On your Teslas, you really just get to pick like the leather color. But like what Lucid's doing is kind of a two-tone, and even the front and the back seats are different, and they have a lot of thought that goes into it. They're really building kind of a more premium product. And that's not a knock on anybody. Like the Teslas are amazing. It doesn't take away from that. This is just a different kind of an animal. So my thumbnail and my title for my video when I interviewed him was the Mercedes killer, not the Tesla killer. That's such a weird thing to say, because think of these cars as replacing gas cars, not replacing electric cars. That's not the point. People miss that all the time. So people are like Mercedes. People should be worried. They're going to be losing sales to Lucid, and not the other way around. So more premium, more exclusive. There was a time, I remember when I was in the Valley, Silicon Valley in like 2013-ish, when I was there for work, having a Tesla was like a really cool status symbol. The really rich guys had $120,000 Model S's. Today, Teslas are everywhere. There are like 100 on my mountain where I live, my little community. They're everywhere. There's tons of them. So if you wanted to be a little more premium, a little more unique, the Lucid Air now becomes a more prestigious potential option. I'm just going to, again, the qualitative aspects about a buyer who would be interested in a Lucid product. So lot to like, and their car, it's a really nice car, especially the front. I think the Lucid in the front is just gorgeous. I really like how it looks, and it's really advanced as well. There's a deep rooted engineering prowess that goes into these cars. They've thought through things like how they cool their motors for better efficiency. They've got their battery packs figured out. They know they're going with a 900 volt architecture.
To me, that's the killer thing is going with that 800 volt architecture it's killer. It really is. That to me is definitely the best out there.
Yeah, they're partnering with Electrify America, and there's a and it's growing quickly, but there's a good network of charging, and I think you'd be very pleased to know that you could get around probably the entire U.S. with a Lucid right now, and couple that with the 500 miles of range, and you're looking in pretty good shape. So, Robert, we talked about the plant. We've talked about kind of the engineering that goes behind it. What else can we talk about to mention why Lucid is a big deal and why you should be interested?
Well, if you take a look, on my screen here, I've got the Lucid page up. The great thing about them, I mean, this is their home screen. For those of you that haven't seen the Lucid, this is of course a side profile of it. 69,000 is the starting price. But the great thing is, even on the reservation, 3 years of charging for free from Electrify America. That's amazing. And for anyone that questions, that setup, this is their Volt architecture. I'm going to scroll down just to kind of get the text out of the way. But I mean, you can see here they've taken kind of GM's approach with the Ultimate battery, where they can just keep adding cells on. I mean, this would definitely open it up to down the road, maybe having a limo version where you've just got extreme cells to keep filling it up. They've got front and rear motors, which of course is pretty much becoming standard these days. Running, of course, the 900 volt architecture, which is different than anyone else. Everyone else runs pretty much the 350 or the 800, and they're going for the 900. So it's definitely good, and I mean it looks like a good car. It really does. And they're kind of taking the Tesla approach with the Lucid Studios in select markets to have that kind of nuanced Mercedes type Maybach feel, where you go in and you can order it and get it customized the way you want it.
Yeah, very much. I think Tesla's kind of laid out a good blueprint for how to do this, and Lucid has some really cool stuff. Their studio is beautiful. It's a really cool way to interact with customers and show off the product and stuff. Really quickly on the 900 volt architecture, I remember I was watching some YouTube video talking about how who cares about the volt? It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't really matter as much as other things. There are some benefits to going higher voltage. Inverters and stuff operate more efficiently. That's the big one. So losses going from the DC battery pack to the AC motors and stuff are going to be more efficient potentially compared to a lower voltage system. So for perspective, Tesla's been running a 350 volt for kind of forever. They're in 350 to 400 range. The Porsche Taycan is 800 volt. Lucid is 900 volt. The other thing too is the higher the voltage, the lower the current, which means all your high voltage wire can be smaller gauge. There's some weight savings there as well. The big drawback to higher voltage is
safety factor as well.
Yeah. Also, you don't need to have as much high gauge wire, and it's safer. Potentially, high voltage it's hard to call high voltage safe, but there's drawbacks and there's pros and cons there.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is the one drawback with going higher voltage is the components usually are more expensive. But Lucid builds their own inverter, and they call this in the Wonder Box, which is a two-way inverter. It can take the battery, power the motor, power your house, take charge from the house. It does it all. So that component, I'm sure, is expensive, and it's also built in house. So when they reach full scale, they can bring the cost down as opposed to buying it off the shelf. But like if you were to buy a 300 volt inverter versus the 800 volt inverter, the 800 volt inverter will cost more. That's just the nature of it. So to people who are saying, well, why not make it 1600 volt? Why not make it 2000 volt? Why not make it 100,000 volt? There's an engineering kind of trade-off there in terms of that. But I do think it is meaningful. One of the videos I watched pointed out that who cares about the voltage? The voltage isn't really what limits your battery charging speed. There's other considerations. That's also true. You have to have really good cooling. You have to have a high C. Robert knows this better than anybody. He has literally built an electric motorcycle. So how much you can draw and discharge from your battery is kind of a function of the chemistry and the geometry of the battery itself, how the pack at large is put together, the cooling for the battery pack, all of that, I get it. But higher voltage could potentially mean faster charging. There's no doubt about that. So put it another way, if you have a good battery pack and 350 volt becomes your limiting factor, it becomes the limitation to how fast you can charge a battery, well then going with a 900 volt architecture would solve that problem. The inverse of that is,
I mean, I think that also is going to help down at the end of the day when we're trying to get to those, 15, maybe 20-minute charge times where we can go in and we can do a power dump and really, charge the pack and go from there. I think that's going to definitely have some benefit down the road as well.
yeah, absolutely. So the inverse of that would be if your battery pack doesn't have sufficient cooling and it cannot charge any faster, then change the voltage doesn't matter. So going from 350 or 400 to 900 volt isn't a magic bullet. It's not a panacea that cures all problems at all, right? It's an engineering decision, but it is a good move. I believe, I've said this before, that the Roadster, the Plaid Model S, is going to be a 800 volt plus architecture. I think they're going to move up to a higher voltage when they roll their yeah. When they go 4680 cells, they're going to do that themselves as well. My prediction. We'll see if I'm right about that. But that's kind of the thing. So there's a lot of confusion, and there's people who aren't engineers or scientists talking about some topics, and I'm not an expert myself. I am an engineer, but there's a lot to it, and I'm hoping that this helps people kind of understand what Lucid is doing. And by the way, the final point about this I want to make is, as your battery pack gets bigger, a higher voltage system is a good idea, because the more batteries you have, the higher the voltage you can charge them at. That's just kind of how it goes. If you have one battery, there's a limit to how much juice you can put into it. But as you have bigger and bigger battery packs, can charge faster and faster at a higher voltage, higher wattage overall. So these are good moves that they're doing. They're really smart. One of the things that they talked about, what I was blown away by, is how they cool their electric motors. They have these like axial jet cooling manifolds inside the motors, right by the windings.
The engineering on their motors is just amazing. It really is. The way that they've designed it and the way that they've built the architecture around it, it's great. From an engineering point of view, for those of you that don't know, I'm an electromechanical engineer as well. And it blows my mind the fact that they've actually done it and the way that they've gone and accomplished it. So
yeah, exactly. The 900 volt architecture also helps with things like that. If you build your motors, they're one of the things they really brag about is their packaging efficiency. Their entire pack, like inverter, motor, transmission, all of it combined is smaller than anybody else's. And that's also potentially a function of voltage. If you're driving these motors at a higher voltage and maybe making more heat, but if you have a better heating solution that has this axial jet manifold right at the winding to take the heat out, right at the source of where the heat is created, you got yourself a winning combination, because you're going to be more efficient. You have the higher voltage, you have higher output, and a smaller motor. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I mean, I think we can go on. We could probably do an entire episode on this and just talk about the engineering behind some of this stuff. But the big takeaway here, and I'm doing this because it's kind of a reaction to a video. I don't want to mention which video, but I watched the video. I was very disappointed with it because there's a lot of misconceptions. A 900 volt architecture is not a magic bullet, but it is better if you engineer everything else around it. I'll say that.
Yeah, it is. And I'll just touch on it just real quickly, because there's no point to beating a dead horse. But the 900 volt architecture, it's groundbreaking in the way they can do it, and also it helps. Their inverter is in-house built, which gives them another great advantage, which is vehicle to grid, which is something that I think is also going to become a real major player in the coming days and years. Well, years and years. But it's being able to take your vehicle and park it at home and provide you that battery wall type backup in case of an emergency. Which, I mean, the more and more we see it, the more and more it's going to be great, and I think the more and more people are going to definitely enjoy using it. So
I agree. I think if you're an energy nerd like you and me, I think you're excited about it just because you like the idea of powering your house during peak times with battery power instead of grid and stuff. But for the average person,
save a little bit of money.
yeah, exactly. But for the average person, Robert, like imagine if You live in a place where you have hurricanes. I live in a place where I have fires and maybe earthquakes. We haven't had one in a while, knock on wood. But the first time you have one of these cars and the power goes out or something, and you know, oh, I know, I have that Lucid Air. Let me go plug it in and power my house. The first day you do that, your entire view will be different. You'll go from vehicle to grid, sounds like a gimmick, who cares, to holy smokes, that just saved the day, you know? So I think it's a big deal also. So I think we're getting here near the end. And maybe based on comments for this video, leave us your comments about like technical aspects. I have contacts at Lucid. I will reach out with questions and I'll try to follow up stuff. And Robert and I will do more research and we'll cover it as stuff happens. This is an exciting company. I'll tell you, they have all the telltale signs of a really good engineering run team. I get all those vibes with Lucid. And to me, they're a buy.
Yeah, that I was about to say the exact same thing. You know, to me, they're a hardcore buy. Even right now, even in this SPAC rumor stage, I still think they're a well worth buy. I mean, it's going to be turbulent definitely for sure for at least the next 3 to 6 months while they try to figure out if the deal is going to go through. As I said in my video, the major thing is Churchill Capital is currently in a deal with AT&T to purchase DirecTV. That was the whole point of the SPAC. And that now, of course, Mr. Klein has decided that he wants to change that field. So it's going to be whether or not he actually does pull from the AT&T deal and move over to Lucid, or if he's going to go ahead and if he's going to stay over with AT&T. But if it's definitely one to watch. If you've got the resources, I would definitely say pick it up and just keep a watch on it. It's probably a long-term buy. For at least the next 6 to 12 months, I would say.
Very good. Hopefully that helped you guys out, and I'm really dying to know all of your comments. Please take the time, leave us your questions. What are you excited about? What do you doubt? That actually might be the most helpful thing. If you're unsure about Lucid, what is it? What is it that keeps you doubting them? And I would love to make a list, and we will track it down and try to come back and address as much of it as we can. Thank you guys so much. We got big plans here for this channel. We're so happy to have you guys watching. This was an idea that Robert and I had. Robert is one of my best friends. I have just been waiting for something that we could do together. He lives in Houston. We're about 1,800 miles apart. So this show, which is something we talk about all the time anyway, just kind of came from that. And we want to try to do what we can to make this as valuable as possible for all of you guys. So if you have ideas, if you have feedback, let us know. We will keep going. This is our 5th or 6th episode now, by the way. Getting on a roll.
Yeah. And we'll post it in the description below as well. But we've got a Facebook channel now going as well, so join on there as well. I read it quite religiously. So if there's anything on there, if there's anything you want to comment on, feel free to add on there. Or as Ricky said, leave it in the comments. We check the comments frequently. So there's I don't think there's a single comment unanswered at this point. So
we'll get
give
to
us
you.
a comment and we'll go from there.
Yeah, and also, by the way, we're going to start a Patreon, and part of the reason why is just to help fund the show, all the costs that we have to keep this thing running, and to buy new gear, new equipment, maybe even start going places. Some of the research that we do, the cost that we have there. But one of the really cool perks for Patreon that we're going to have is we're going to have an investor group chat on Discord. So Robert and I and 3 other gentlemen, currently we have a investor club. It's just a little iMessage group that we have, and we talk about the rumors and what's happening.
We had about 300 messages go through the other day, and my phone was blowing up in meetings, and people were like, who's trying to get a hold of you? I was like, nothing. It's just the guys chatting with me, and we were talking about a bunch of stuff. So,
but I mean, the genesis for this channel happened because we've made a lot of money. We've done the research. We've talked. We've chatted. We've gotten ahead of things, and we wanted to kind of open it up further. And the Patreon, we're gonna have some different tiers and stuff. Stay tuned for that when we have it published. But for the higher tiers, You're going to be in a Discord chat where you'll be part of the team. If you hear some news or you're you're an avid analyst and you have your own insight and stuff, you'll be able to share it and we'll all benefit from it. And maybe we can have you on the show. We'll talk about the stuff you've come up with, and it just becomes a team game. Because in a lot of ways, investing is a tough thing to do. I remember I was watching a video from Hyperchange. You watch Hyperchange? Gally from Hyperchange?
I do, yeah.
He's awesome. And he had this great quote that has stuck with me. He says, in this Federal Reserve money printing era we live in where, every dollar they just keep on printing and kind of robbing you of the value of your current dollars, an inflationary currency. You can't just be an engineer or a doctor or a dentist. You have to also be an investor, because otherwise the money you're making will just continually get diluted. So I really do believe in that. I think we're engineers here. If you're whatever it is you do for a living, think of it as whatever you do for a living plus investor. That should be your title, because really how you make your money is up to you, but how you grow your money, well, that is kind of a team game. And that's why we have mutual funds and slush funds and hedge funds and stuff, because it is a team game. So if you like to invest in the future that you want to see, which is our entire thing, we want to see electric school buses and Archimoto FUVs around, and Teslas and Lucid Air cars that are electric. That's the world that we want to see. So we're putting our money where our mouth is and investing in those kinds of companies. So thank you so much for watching. We hope you'll subscribe, join us for this ride. It should be a lot of fun. We're just getting our sea legs at this point, but what do you think, Robert? Episode 10 will go live?
I'm hoping a little bit before that.
Okay, Mr. Optimism. I like it. But when we do go live, we'll let you know. We'll post it early and set reminders and stuff, and we'll answer your chat and have some fun along the way. Thank you so much for watching.
I vote the first live show is a 2-hour show. What do you think, Ricky?
A 2-hour live show?
2-hour live show.
What do you call it?
We'll do an hour analyst show, and then we'll answer questions for another hour.
I'd have to quit my job, my friend. Hey, we get enough patrons. We get enough patrons, and to do that, I am on board. But right now, that probably isn't in the cards. But either way, this is 2 Bits and Cents Investing. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe. Turn on your bell icon for notifications. That kind of stuff really helps a young, small channel. We'll keep promoting it from our main channels and everywhere else. But we hope you'll enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
See ya.